With the huge balance PTR changes coming soon to Overwatch, Baptiste is looking to become one of the strongest supports in the whole game. With some of the highest amounts of burst heal and an extremely powerful utility based kit, do yourself a favor and master Baptiste in order to pop off and hard carry from the support role. You might be thinking that DPS players are the only characters that can hard carry games. Well, GameLeap.com has Grandmaster Support and Tank Specialists that can give you the highest quality guide so that you know exactly how to have high impact and carry your trash DPS. Well, what are you waiting for? I'll see you there. Now, Baptiste is the newest addition to the support lineup, and many are wondering how he places among the multiple supports in the meta. Baptiste can burst heal extremely fast and is exceptional at healing bunched up groups of allies. On top of this, his Immortality is one of the strongest singular abilities in the whole game, capable of trading even for multiple ultimates. With this new buffed primary fire, he can actually dish out a bunch of damage himself as well, and makes for some high impact solo plays. Now let's break down Baptiste's strengths and weaknesses so that you know exactly what you need to do in order to maximize his impact in each and every game you play. Let's first break down Baptiste's role as a healer. He has incredible burst healing, capable of healing in chunks of 60 with splash, and with his added regenerative burst ability, his healing can top near 100 health points heal a second. This means that Baptiste can heal up group targets incredibly fast, which means you can out sustain through all sorts of damage. Enemies pushing in, focus fire, or even your tanks taking direct fire from the enemy, Baptiste can often heal through it because he does more heals per second than the enemy team could do damage per second. Some people underestimate just how hard it is to kill tanks who are actively being protected and pocketed by a Baptiste. A common practice on Bap can simply be to weather the storm. Don't undervalue the sustain that Baptiste provides. It's one of the strongest aspects of his get going forward when he has some of the highest HPS in the game. This means that after Mora's nerf and the decline of many of the top supports in Overwatch, Baptiste has been creeping in power level to the point of perhaps being the best carry support on the roster. Due to Baptiste's insane healing per second, he also gets his ultimates faster than just about any other character in the game. Getting an ultimate before anyone else can be used to quickly turn a fight that's at parity. Placing your amplification matrix correctly is important to maximize that effectiveness. While you can increase your own healing with amplification matrix, yes, maximizing the DPS output of your team can single-handedly win a team fight when neither team has ultimates. Try and make sure that you think about who can use your amplification and try to place it in a way that evaluates where the fight will aggress. The last thing that you want to have happen is that the enemy pushes through your Immortality Field so that you can't effectively use it, or the enemy team can simply disengage in a way where your amplification matrix gets nearly no value. It's all about that perfect balance when to place that Immortality Field so that you can maximize its effectiveness. One of the best things you could do when using an early ultimate is pre-call when you're going to place amplification matrix down so that your team can combine abilities and get in position to follow through with it. A Ryan Fire Strike through Amplification Matrix can help close out a point because it does 200 damage that can one-shot a whole bunch of heroes in the game. A Hanzo can save her Storm Arrow, Ana can save her Nade. Many of the characters in the game will benefit dramatic as long as they know your Amplification Matrix is coming, so make sure you call it. Another thing to keep in mind is if you put Amplification Matrix on a payload, it can move with the payload as long as you place it correctly. Lastly, I need to talk about when you want to use Amplification Matrix just for yourself. Now, there are two big examples when you want to use Amplification Matrix just for yourself. The first one is the more reactive one, and it's when you use Amplification Matrix in order to massively heal up your team. This could be like a pseudo support ult because double your heals per second can easily save your tanks in a grab or pretty much protect anybody unless they're getting one shot. If the fight progresses to a place where you can't use your Amplification Matrix aggressively, using it defensively could still do a mimic support ult that can protect your team. The next way you can use Amplification Matrix is to try to actually secure a kill. While Baptiste's gun does decent damage, through an Amplification Matrix, he's better than a Soldier 76 at dealing mid-range targets. This means if you have a Widow or Hanzo on the high ground that actually threatens your team, or if there's a support that you can pick off from a certain angle, quickly using your Amplification Matrix and mowing down someone that doesn't expect it can be a way to get insane value and actually win a team fight. Try to evaluate risk versus reward because you definitely don't want to get shut out when your ultimate could have been used with your whole team. That being said, I'm not going to completely disregard this way of using Amplification Matrix because I've seen time and time again Baptiste get tons of value by getting a pick using Amplification Matrix just for themselves. Moving on, we need to talk about some of the utility that Baptiste provides besides healing. Firstly, Bap's raw damage is nothing to scoff at. He can zone away key targets, and if you land some crits, you can even duel many heroes in the game. Just make sure to not overemphasize dealing damage, because every second you're dealing damage, you're not healing your tanks to their maximum potential. You can always spend a couple of seconds zoning away the enemy, but make sure you go back to healing before your tanks or other players get punished. Now, Baptiste's high ground boost can easily be used to position yourself in a way where you're overlooking your team. You could be in a lookout position above your team and easily heal them from up above. Because Baptiste's heal comes in the form of splash and it's a grenade, it's really easy to hit even if you're on the high ground. On top of that, Bap's ability to take high ground instantly can make him really hard to punish, and he's amazing on maps that have high grounds that you can retreat to. Think New Bonnie on defense or King's Row, where you can easily use your high ground relocate to run away from the team, and it's really hard for the enemy team to chase you unless they have mobility themselves. It's also really relevant that Baptiste's ability isn't on a cooldown. He can take the high ground, jump down from the high ground, and retake the high ground instantly. This is one of the strongest things about Baptiste, and smart Baptistes have really solid positioning, making them extremely hard to punish. Lastly, we need to talk about the Immortality Field. This is the true reason you want to play Baptiste and why he has so much high impact in your games. In fact, Immortality Field might be the strongest single ability in the whole game. Let's break this down so you know how to farm free wins on this broken ability, but before that, I need to tell you this elusive thing that can help you also farm free wins on Baptiste and every other character in the game. GameLeap.com is the best place to find high quality guides handcrafted by GM players who have put hundreds of hours into learning the characters so you don't have to. Learn that knowledge instantly on GameLeap and become that Grandmaster player as quickly as possible. Well, what are you waiting for? Come check us out risk-free in the links here. Now, Immortality Field is one of the strongest single abilities in all of Overwatch. The potential is nearly infinite because it makes your teammates literally immortal as long as the lamp does not get destroyed. Let's break down this extremely powerful ability so that you know everything you need to do, and then give you 4 big tips so you can master Immortality Field as quickly as possible. Firstly, I need to define exactly why Immortality Field is so strong. The important thing to understand here is that the raw value that Immortality Field can sustain an enemy team through can be enormous. Grav Dragon, Gravitic Flux, Nano Blade. Not only can a well-timed Immortality Field stop a single ult, but it can even shut down ult combos, which are some of the most powerful things you can do in the game of Overwatch. Now let's jump into the top 4 tips so that you can get more successful Immortality Fields off that don't get broken as easy and get you much more value. The first tip is to use natural cover. This allows you to hard peek the enemy without fear of dying and fear of the Immortality Field breaking. If you put it behind natural cover, it makes it far more difficult for the enemy team to get in position to actually threaten the Immortality Field, and can essentially become an 8-second Mario superstar for your whole team. DPS players such as Widow can take an easy duel if they know that there's an Immortality Field protecting them. This can also be really strong in a Bastion matchup where a Bastion peeks around the corner, and even if he doesn't have a shield, he's not going to get punished because he simply can't die due to your Immortality Field around the corner. Next up, for tip number 2, make the enemy hard engage first before committing Immortality Field. If the enemies start to push in and you throw down Immortality Field first, they're going to use all their abilities to focus and kill the Immortality Field before doing any damage to your team. Basically, if you throw down Immortality before they committed resources like abilities onto your team, they'll use those abilities to focus down the Immortality Field first. This is not what you want to have happen, because you want the enemy team to overcommit into your team trying to secure a kill, but Immortality saves them at the last moment. Remember, Immortality Field doesn't actually heal anyone up, however, it will protect your teammates from going below 40 health. This means that if the enemy team has already committed all their abilities, their resources, and their damage into your team, and at the last second, you protect that break point from happening and you keep your team alive, it allows you to easily turn the tables and actually secure a team fight. Next up is you really need to call out to your team when you have Immortality Field and when you will use it. Communication is a key with Immortality Field because while Bap himself can play more aggressive into the team when he has a Immort, if you want the same aggression out of your tanks and DPS, you have to make sure that they're aware of what you're trying to execute. You can say things like, meet them at the corner, I'm going to Immortality Field right behind it. If your team is aware of your ability to save them, they can adjust their playstyle and aggression accordingly. This allows you and your team to get much more value out of Immortality Field as long as they know that you're actively trying to use it and how you're trying to use it. Now lastly, you need proper timing to shut down enemy ultimates. You want to make sure and wait till everyone is below a certain HP and soon to be lethal. You want to save your team at the last possible moment because Immortality doesn't heal them up. This is similar to the second tip when the enemy is hard engaging. However, when stopping ultimates, you really need to keep track of their specific mindset. If you don't wait, you give the enemy much more time to focus down your immortality as a team to make their ultimate be much more successful. Think of something like a graviton. If you throw down Immortality Field at the very beginning of the graviton, the enemy will easily focus that down first. However, if you wait to the last second right before your whole team dies, the enemy team might not be able to have the coordination and focus fire in order to shut down your Immortality Field. This is the same way with something like a Genji blade. If the Genji has already used his slash and dash in order to actually try to confirm a kill, he's not going to have a slash dash in order to try to kill your actual Immortality Field. This is why in order to master Immortality Field, it's good to know the timing of every single cooldown in the game and understand the tempo of what's happening. Ultimately, Baptiste is not huge on mechanics and his positioning is actually pretty forgiving. What's the key about being an insane Baptiste is your game sense, understanding of the game and the fundamentals around you, and trying to play in a way that can maximize your team's effectiveness. I promise you, if you really grind Baptiste and take everything in this guide to heart and really practice it, you will climb tons of SR on Baptiste, and in my opinion, even in this meta, he's extremely underplayed based on the amount of impact he can have in your ranked matches. Anyways, I hope this guide has been helpful for you. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. Please let me know what's the next guide or VOD review you want so I know what to get started on. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.